Johann Sawyer again, your friendly local constitutional coop from California. And I'm about to make maybe the most stunning statement any of you have ever heard here, but it's also true. There are no sovereign, independent states remaining which were admitted into this union. 32 of them, up to and including Oregon and Minnesota, and they're not there anymore, courtesy of the war between the states, the Reconstruction era, and a lot of BS like that. And that was to find the New York bankers, by the way, to take the state out of the picture, and that's exactly what they did. And now all we have are United States citizens, birthright citizens, pursuant to the non-existent 14th War Amendment. And yes, I can prove all of that off the top of my head with no notes. A reason I will never be allowed to see a common law jury. But in order for that to happen, they're going to have to pay you off, big time to settle your claims. And that's where I'll get a good part of that settlement from doing what it is I do. But we want those states back. We want the Republican form of government and defined and limited powers back. And we can do it. And the Supreme Court knows it, and they know they've been very complicit here in allowing this to happen. You'll learn more about that with the acquisition of my moderate price materials. Send me an email, youwinningcourt@gmail.com. And boy, the real history is astounding when you know the truth. And don't feel bad. I didn't learn all those decades ago right outside of Washington, D.C. either. Not a word. The only thing I heard about President Johnson was he was our worst president. He got impeached, which is true. If I had known what he got impeached for, my life would have been different 60 years ago, and I would have been doing this a lot longer. Black is literally white here. Sounds absolutely ridiculous, and yet we can prove no state, no judicial process, every law on the books was null and void, nunc pro tunc ab initio, as at least a bill of attainder. The taking of life, liberty, or property without judicial process. And send me an email, youwinningcourt@gmail.com, for more information. And think about the magnitude of that, because all the court hears these days, even the U.S. Supreme Court, and this is what's about to change here with new justices coming in. I'm very excited about that, because all the goddamn state bar association attorneys will do when you get there as a client is for due process and equal fucking protection of the law. 14th Amendment crap. And it rarely wins, and even when it does, it isn't a major big deal. But we have to get the real issues there. And that's the Supreme Court. And they have a thing called the Ashwander Doctrine that you'll learn more about later. And I learned relatively early on. And one of the rules of Ashwander is they say literally, dang, word for word, the court will not address an issue of constitutional law though properly presented by the record if there is some other ground upon the case, not to mention our creator endowed inalienable rights, can be disposed of. And that's the business they've been in for at least the last 80 years, if not longer than that. But when we get there and make issues, and by the way, that bill of attainder issue is a huge, big deal, and yet they haven't decided a single case on that issue since Cummings v. Missouri, Forwall 277 in 1867. There's a reason for that, and you'll learn all about it. Send me an email, youwinningcourt@gmail.com. And the same can be said, with the other big issue here, which is Republican form of government secured to the state by Article 4, Section 2 of the Constitution for the United States. It's not there, and it hasn't been for over 140 years, because now you'll take notice that we elect senators every 6 years. and make a big deal out of these elections, but it takes the states out of the mix. They're not represented in Washington, D.C. either. I mean, that's how bad it is. And every 6 years, and that's the 17th Amendment, by the way, you'll learn that doesn't exist either. And there's a lot more you'll learn about Congress that you need to know in order to challenge jurisdiction successfully. And that's my job to teach you that. So send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com, and we get some real issues on the record. And we haven't even gotten, by the way, to the 9th Amendment that reserves rights to everybody that aren't necessarily listed in the Constitution. And that's a major big deal. And yet they only ruled on that issue once. Case is called, well, I'll get it for you in a second, out of Connecticut, and in 1965. And it was really a meaningless case, but only one time have they ruled on the 9th Amendment, because people aren't asking the right questions, which is exactly what I'm going to teach you how to do. Send me an email at youwinnincourt@gmail.com, and we can go from there and present some real issues that we have every right to do, and that these current justices know they have the sworn duty to hear our case when we get there. They just can't dismiss this like they can do on the appellate side. And with these corporate BS entities, you have no standing. We have every standing. This racist framers ordained and established this Constitution to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Not Chase Bank, not IBM, not Microsoft. We own the damn place. We start acting like the things are going to get better in a hurry, and you can teach your kids and your posterity how to do that also. Send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com, and we can get there. And sometimes, by the way, on the rare occasion they do hear any of us on our issues, they never directly address the issues. That's a real problem, but they don't do it because they can get around it, with Ashwander, or they can do what they did in the case called Luther v. Borden in 1857, Howard won, and ruled the question raised was a political question. And in that case, it might have been, by the way, in 1850. It sure as hell won't be now when we get there and raise Republican form of government, bills of attainder. I mean, you name it. These are not political questions, and you'll learn how to distinguish those easily. Send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com, and we start presenting real issues, and we get real answers from the court that's now prepared to do that for the first time in very arguably 150 years. And by doing that and getting involved here and maybe finding me some investment capital on top of that, you can set the table here, and teach your kids and your posterity so they don't have to be forced through any of this bureaucratic bullshit like you have been. They're going to learn in school what they should have learned. And once that starts to happen, things really change. It's going to be great stuff in the future. I hope I'm around to see at least a little bit of it. But that's what's going to change it. And it's just, wow, that's exciting even to think about. So send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. I'll tell you all about what I do, how I do it, and why you should want to do it. And we can go from there. In the meantime, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. Subscribe, like the videos, tell your friends, get the word out. The sooner we start taking action, the quicker we get these bastards off our backs. Thank you.